Are you ready? Ready to bring a revolution to your relationships? Ready for the experiences on your dating adventure to evolve? Ready for more passion, intimacy, connection, and love in your relationship? Ready to heal past relationship wounds? You're in the right place. I'm Alan, the Love Engineer, and this is the Relationship Revolutions podcast. In this series, you'll get guidance and tips from me, interviews from other relationship experts, insights from couples who already have a great relationship, and other mind-opening conversations. Welcome to the latest episode of Relationship Revolutions, where this week I'm joined by Gail Page. And as normal, I have no idea what we're going to talk about. That's what makes it fun. So, first two questions, Gail. How are you and where are you?
I'm fabulous, thank you, Alan. And I'm in a little village called, well, it's not such a little village, a village called Yatton. So it's sort of kind of halfway between Weston-super-Mare and Bristol. So yeah, it's lovely. And I've just seen our squirrel, Charlie, come running in to get the sunflower seeds. It's so cute.
You have a pet squirrel?
Well, no, I couldn't call him a pet. But we have a squirrel that we've nicknamed Charlie, and we've got a wood pigeon we've nicknamed Fatso, and a robin called Robbie. So they come and visit us every day.
Excellent.
Indeed.
If my understanding sounds correctly, you're a business coach.
Not as such. No, I'm a leadership development coach and facilitator. But I work mainly with leaders on personal development because I'm a great believer that you can't coach a title. You have to coach the person who wears the title. And that's what I've been doing for coming up 26 years. And working with their teams as well, though, because they need the tools just as much as the leader does.
When the leader isn't willing to learn for themselves and wants the team to put in all the work and make all the changes to fit their belief system, shall we say?
Well, I just don't work with them. It's as simple as that. I tell them that if they want me to do work with their team, then they have to be engaged in the process as well. Otherwise, there's no point. Yeah. Absolutely no.
They're dictating more than leading.
Indeed. And there's a lot of them trying to do that. However, when I do say to them, you have a choice. You can either have a team who is functioning exceptionally well, who love coming to work, who show up without the need for masks, without fear of judgment, who will be much better performers, who will be much more efficient, and will increase your bottom line if you agree to be part of the process, or you can say, no, you won't, and I say, no, I won't either. And 90% of the time they say yes.
It sounds familiar because when I look at the work I do with couples, they've both got to be in it. But initially, when they first come to me, it's sort of, can you fix my wife or can you fix my husband? They are the problem.
Oh, yes. We're very good at pointing the finger out there. But we forget that there's three others pointing back at us, and they're called me, myself, and I. And that's where we need to start working.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we do the same kind of thing, Alan, because you work on relationships. I work on relationships too.
Yes.
Just in a different way.
Those fingers pointing back at myself, that's a lesson I learned about 20 years ago. Not a nice lesson, but because I was in a very dark place, and it wasn't the first time, so I thought, I know, I'll move. I'll effectively run away. I didn't tell anyone that's what I was doing or why I was doing it. They assumed it was an adventure. Where's the furthest I can get from all of these problems? I know, Australia. So I went out to Australia and New Zealand for a year, and funnily enough, everything I ran away from was over there too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Funny that, eh? Because we take ourselves with us wherever we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just back from 18 years in New Zealand, so I know it well.
I'll ask you the same question that people asked me when I came back. Why did you come back?
One word, family. Simple as that. We came back for family.
Yeah. I get that. When I came back, one of the reasons was I'd run out of money and run out of visa. But also, when I was about 6 months into the trip, I was in Perth and went to speak to the immigration people and said, well, look, what have I got to do to stay? He looked through my CV and qualifications and had a conversation. He says, right, it's quite simple. You've got a choice to make. You can forget all your travel plans for the next 6 months and work as a mechanic. Then you've got enough points to stay. No, it's half of it. I'm doing it. And he said, the other option is go back to England, mechanic for a year. Then you've got enough points to come back. I thought, okay. So I thought, well, I'll do that. And then, it didn't work out. Okay. Came back and within 12 months I bought a house and all that sort of stuff, which kind of stopped it. But while I was in Perth that day, I went and sat on the beach with a piece of A4 paper, drawn a line down the middle, reasons to live in England, reasons to live in Australia. The list was that long. There were 3 things on the list for England: friends, family, and less snakes.
There you go.
And they were
It's amazing.
It's
amazing the power of family.
Yeah, you don't realise the power of it till you don't have it.
Indeed. I mean, the only way that I managed to handle it for that amount of time was I had to compartmentalize it. Because if I had allowed it to come out of the compartment and look at it, I'd have been a mess. And, and a lot of people that I knew over there were exactly the same. But we went there for an adventure. And we didn't know how long we were going to go. We said, let's go on an adventure. And we didn't know a soul. We'd never been there. Best thing we ever did. Loved it. However, I'm loving us being back even more. Yeah.
So you didn't go alone?
No. I went with my partner. Yeah.
I went on my own. Initially, one of my mates says, well, if you start off in Brisbane, I've got family there. I'll come with you. Fantastic, I thought. Don't know anybody over there, so that makes it a lot easier. I landed in Brisbane in March 2003. He landed in Brisbane sometime in 2006.
Okay.
It didn't quite go to that.
No, maybe that was what the universe.
Yeah, it turned out that was best for both of us, really.
Yeah,
because certainly for myself, if I'd have gone out there with him, I've had 3 months, whatever it is, talking to him at the bar, and then all of a sudden, bang, on my own. Hit me harder than going out, knowing that I'm on my own, knowing that I have got to talk to people. One of my greatest fears at that time.
Yeah, and it's all about relationships. It doesn't matter where we go in life. We all want to feel connected to other people. We all want to have this feeling of belonging. And, you were saying earlier about you went through a dark time, but wherever you went, all those feelings came with you. And I always say to people, and yes, we talked about pointing the finger out there, but we all have to look inside and ask ourselves, if I'm seeing this showing up in my life, what part might I be inadvertently playing in this? And often those questions are not easy to answer. To answer them, we must. It's the only way we learn.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the benefits of having a coach in your life, whether it's business, whether it's relationships, or just general life, is that they will ask the questions we will never ask ourselves, and neither will our friends or family, because they care about us too much.
That's right. Often, though, I think the care that other people have for us can be slightly misplaced.
Yeah.
I know several people that I've spoken with, and I've said to them, if I ever say or do anything that pisses you off, I need you to tell me there and then. Because if I don't know that's how you're feeling, I can't do anything to fix it.
Yeah.
And several people have gone, whoa, I don't think I've ever had anybody say that to me. I said, well, that's just how I am. That's how I've learned to become. I didn't set out, having a wonderful relationship with myself. I used to have terrible imposter syndrome, absolutely awful. And I'd be scared stiff somebody would find out that I wasn't as good as I was trying to project, But gradually over the years, I realized just how much energy that was using, trying to be how I thought other people thought I should. And that's a flat trap, because we don't know what other people think we should be like. Nobody sort of sits there and says, Alan, now listen to me, boy. This is what I think you should be like. And nobody says, now, Gail, you listen to me, girl. This is how I think you should be. It's all very subtle, the way people are around us. And we have to try and interpret what they're meaning. But of course, as you know, that has to go through all our filters, our beliefs, our experiences, and then we make sense of it for us. But it doesn't mean to say that that was the message that was sent, does it?
As if the words of someone else, we only 7% of that communication is the words.
Oh,
and
exactly.
Even then, we see the world as we are through our own beliefs, as you say.
Exactly, so, that's right.
That you just said is that when you're talking to your friends, if you annoy them or piss them off, you want them to tell you in that moment. And I think there are a lot of couples that would benefit from doing that within their relationship.
Oh, totally.
Not always at that time. Because you don't want to be out for dinner with your friends and then one says to you, you really peed me off just there, then you should do this, you should do that. That's going to do more
no.
to the relationship.
Of course it is, yeah.
But when you get home, have that quiet conversation, look, just so that you know, I'm good and this is why. And they say, oh, I didn't realise you took it that way. This is the intention behind the words, so to speak.
Know what someone's intention is. I've been teaching people how to be assertive for nigh on 28 years now. And I do it because it made such a difference in my life. Totally changed how I showed up in relationships. It changed how I related to other people, but most importantly, how I related to myself. And I guarantee you there's not a living soul out there who at one time or another hasn't had to have a difficult conversation. Everybody I meet, and they say, so what's this about assertiveness? Why do you teach that? I said, because everybody struggles to tell each other how they feel, and it ends up in a difficult conversation. Whereas if I can give them the tools on how to show up assertively, then the number of times you have to have a difficult conversation drastically reduces. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have difficult conversations, because it can be such a growing experience, especially in teams. You might find it difficult if John comes up with an idea and you think, I don't really like that idea. But when you start talking about it and you're in an atmosphere, an environment that helps you feel safe to share how you think, feel and believe, then that's where growth comes from. When you're a couple, quite often you'll have somebody say to their partner, oh, I'm going to go out with the guys or the girls for a couple of drinks. I'll be back at 7:00. And they rock up at 9:30. And the person who's been out walks in the door and it's like this, where the hell have you been? And it's, whoa. And then they react to that rather than looking underneath it to see what's really going on. What's actually going on is that the other person is trying to say, hey, do you know something? I was worried about you. If you're going to be late next time, just flick me a text and let me know. That's all it needs. Make sense?
I've been in that situation myself. And there's there's two sides to it. There's this is back when I was married. I'll be home in 5 minutes or half an hour, whatever it may be. later on in the day or another day, it'd be, I'll be ready in half an hour later.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
If you're going to be half an hour, then we can leave at this time, be there for that time. So you've said to the people you meet in that this is the time we're going to get there, and it goes both ways. Lack of communication on both sides.
I think there's lots of communication happens, not necessarily the kind of communication that's needed.
Yes, very much.
We can all talk a lot and what have you, but it's interesting because I had a conversation. I was at a networking meeting the other day. First time I'd been there, and it was an in-person one. And I was chatting to these two men, and we were talking about how we like to meet people. And I said, well, I said most of the time, especially in New Zealand, because people were it's a huge place, although there's not a lot of people. And I was coaching people in the UK and in France and in Canada. And I said, Zoom has been incredibly useful. And they were, oh, no, I don't like Zoom. Don't like Zoom. No, don't do Zoom. It's got to be in person. I said, well, I can see why you like in person, because so do I, because the energy is different. I said, but it's not always possible. No, you can't gauge how somebody's feeling. Just guys sitting on a camera. And I said, well, I have a different perspective on that because I have coached people through some really, really sticky issues. I've even done what's like mediation on Zoom, and it's been very, very successful. I said, you just have to start reading the body language more appropriately. So you maybe, when you're looking at the whole person, you'll be looking at all parts of the body. Whereas when you're seeing somebody from the waist up, then you have to become more aware of the breath that they're taking, how long those breaths are for, how deep those breaths are, where are their eyes going? Do they raise their eyebrow? Things like that. And they wouldn't have it. They just would not have it. And I said, well, that's probably because I've had to become even better at reading body language because of having to go on Zoom. So no, I went and got myself another coffee because we were going to head into a different, not a difficult, different conversation that I didn't want to be part of.
Yeah.
Very nice people. They just had different perspectives.
I think one of the things that puts most people off video calls, whether it's Zoom or any other options or just FaceTime, whatever it may be, is that they don't like the way they look on camera. I know I certainly don't. It's taken me a lot to do what I do now. What I found is if I'm just doing a Facebook Live, whatever it may be, and it's just me looking at me, talking to me, it's like, wish it. Whereas things like this, where I'm having a conversation with somebody, I don't know where it's going to go, and I can see someone else, and it makes more sense. It is more
totally, yeah.
Even though it's still me on camera.
Yeah.
It's amazing
because we've
how
got
my mind
somebody
works
else to
differently.
focus on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the same in our relationships. If it's just you looking in the mirror, you're telling yourself lots and lots of stories, and it doesn't matter what your partner says. The number of times I'll say to my partner, how do I look? You always look gorgeous. Yeah, but how do I look tonight? And I've just told you, it's not determined by what somebody else tells us. It's determined by what we tell us.
Absolutely.
And until we can get that relationship, a really positive relationship, then it doesn't matter what other people tell us. We need to be able to self-validate, not rely on the validation of other people.
Yeah.
Because it's a very, very dangerous place to be if we rely on external validation.
So many of us pick that up from the way that we're raised as children.
Yeah.
Both at home and through the school system, where that says, unless you get this grade, it's probably not good enough and you're not going anywhere. Which is complete bullshit. Because you look at the most successful people in the world and the college dropouts or never went to school.
That's right. I totally agree with you. And I'm a great believer. Well, you're going to get me on my hobby horse now, Alan. I've been involved a lot in New Zealand around bullying. Not being a bully. I just hasten to add that, but actually dealing with people who had bullying going on in the workplace. And, the kids who were schoolyard bullies have now become corporate bullies. The unfortunate thing is that people who bully usually only bully because it's the best way that they can find to make themselves feel good about themselves, is to make somebody else feel bad about themselves. And I'm a great believer that if schools introduced age-appropriate assertiveness, even as young as kindergarten, and gave children the tools that they need in order to be able to have the self-esteem that they need to be able to say to somebody, hey, do you know something? It's not okay to talk to me like that. And the kids who do the bullying, regardless of what's going on at home, they would be building up self-esteem within themselves so that they didn't need to make somebody else feel bad. And I think that needs to continue all the way through the school system up into university level. Because the number of leaders and senior leaders that I have met, some of the things that happened to them when they were at school, they're still carrying around with them. Their emotional baggage at it is huge. Because it's, as you said earlier, it's all got to do with how we're socialized, how we're conditioned as children. Because if we're having a conversation with somebody that we're in a relationship with, we sort of get aggressive or our tone changes. It's nothing to do with what's going on in the present. Most of it has to do with stuff that's gone on in the past that we haven't addressed, and that comes rushing forward into the present. And the person on the receiving end of it goes, holy hell, what just happened here? We don't know. We don't realize we've stored all that baggage at the back of the attic of our minds, and it shows up at the most inopportune times. Ooh, that sounds like annoying.
With somebody that you love or loves you because you feel safe enough for those emotions to come out.
Often, though, it happens in the workplace too. Whether somebody feels safe or not, it's like the straw that broke the camel's back. And then, of course, the person on the receiving end of it goes, okay, so I'm not going to go near John or I'm not going to go near Jen because they're quite volatile. And then that person gets a name for themselves. And I think that's why I am so passionate about giving people those tools. When I was in New Zealand, I used to do a lot of work for the councils. And one of the favourites was difficult conversations workshops. And when I'm in running a workshop, I've always got a flip chart up and get everybody to write their name and one thing that they would like to have happen during the day that would tell them it would be worthwhile them coming. So there's a little table beside me and there was a red, a black and a blue pen. And everybody picked up the black pen because the first person who'd written the name wrote it in black. So everybody wrote in the black pen. And this guy came up and he got up from his seat and he just looked at me as if to go, okay. And he walked up to the table and he picked up the red pen, looked at me and went across to the flip chart and wrote his name in capitals, wrote nothing as the thing he would like to have happen that show him it would be worth him coming. And then double underlined all of it in the red pen, came back to the table, looked at me and slammed it on the table, went and sat down and then sat like this as if to say, and what you going to do now, girl? And his colleagues just sat there like this. Oh my God. They just wanted the floor to open up. So I said to him, I'm kind of guessing that you don't want to be here. Oh, well done, dear. Well done. And I said, I'm going to hazard another guess that you were sent on this workshop. Oh, 2 out of 2. 2 out of 2. Well done. Who's a clever girl? And his colleagues, once again, you could see them just floor open up and let me dive in. And I'm very lucky that the skills and the self-leadership and the self-management that I've learned over the years, I know that as long as I'm talking to someone in a respectful way, anything they bring to the table has nothing to do with me. It's their stuff. So I said to him, look, I tell you what, how about you give me an hour? And if at the end of that hour, you've decided that it's not worthwhile you being here, I will open the door for you and let you go with my blessing, and I'll even talk to your manager about it. He was just about to get out of his chair, and then I said, that is, unless you're not up for the challenge. And he sat back down again, and he went, well, I suppose it's only an hour. Halfway through, I said to him, I made damn sure he was fully engaged in an exercise with his colleagues. Halfway through, I sort of just tapped him on the shoulder. I said, you're halfway through. He said, what? I said, you're halfway through, are you? And then 5 minutes to go, I said to him, you've only got 5 minutes left. I said, so if you want to leave now, I said, hey, it's okay. And he said, look, do you mind? I'm busy. I thought, yeah, yes, he's going to stay. So 2 weeks later, they came back for the follow-up, and I said to them, right, I said, I just want to go quick round robin, share one thing that you learned, that you've tried, that worked well, and why you think it worked. And then one thing that didn't go quite as well as you might have liked, and why you think that might have been. His hand shot up. And his colleagues, 5 of his colleagues went, no, don't let him go. Don't let him go. And he sat there as if somebody had taken his favourite toy away from him. And I said, normally I would say no. He put his hand up first. You can go. I kind of get the impression that you might want to hear what they have to say. Are you okay with that? And he said, oh, all right then. I am not joking, Alan. These people were like proud parents because he had a horrendous reputation for talking over people in meetings, telling them they didn't know their ass from their elbow, telling them that, oh, that will never work, all those kind of things. And every one of them, they'd been in different meetings with him, every one of them said, do you know something? Not once did he talk over anybody. He never told anybody that they didn't know what they're talking about. And it was an absolute pleasure to be in the same room as him. And variations on that theme. I'm not joking. The poor guy, he sat there with tears welling up in his eyes. He'd go, oh. I said, now then, was that worth hearing? He went, oh, yeah, I suppose. He says, I just have to say to you, thank you. Because he said, he says, the way I behaved in that first session, he said, you could have made me look like such a dick. I said, well, I could have, but actually you did a good enough job by yourself, eh? And he burst out laughing and he said, yeah, you're kind of right. Now, on a relationship level, could have taken his behavior to mean something about me. He didn't like me. He didn't think I was qualified to be doing what I'm doing. You name it. I could have made it mean something, but I didn't. That's the thing with words. I can remember when I did my first NLP training, and there was Richard Bandler, one of the daddies of NLP, Paul McKenna, and Michael Breen. And it was very rah, Americanized, and loud music, and everybody's clapping when they came on. They went up on the stage, and Paul McKenna and Michael Breen introduced themselves. And then Richard Bandler introduced himself. And for the first, you have to excuse the language, but it's not mine, it's his. For the first 2-3 minutes, every second word just about was fuck. And there were these women sitting in front of me, beautifully coiffed hair, very expensive clothes on. And one of them, I can still see it. I mean, that's 20 odd years ago. One of them went, Daphne, did you hear that? He said fuck. And Daphne went, I did, Doris. Oh my God, he's just said fuck again. When he finished those 2, I was in hysterics because I didn't expect it to come out of their mouths. But when he'd finished, he said, if you take nothing else away from you from this week, I want you to take this message with you. Fuck is just a 4-letter word. And it's the meaning that we attribute to the word that gives it power. That stuck with me. It's the meaning that we give to other people's words that impact us. Not the words, it's what we make it mean. I've always remembered that. Especially Doris and Daphne. Because they were funny. Yes, indeed. But it's true, isn't it? That words are so powerful. And the tone that we use with them makes them even more powerful. I mean, you must have had experience of that, in your work as well as in your personal life.
Definitely. And when you drop the F-bomb, when it's not expected, you certainly get somebody's attention.
You do indeed. But I only use that because of what my Richard Bandler done.
Yeah.
But it's any words that are used. You know, this saying when we were at schools and the kids, not schools and the kids at school. When you say, sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. That's the biggest heap of tosh I have ever heard. We heal from physical things, but words have such power. That's why, coaches like you and I is helping people understand they will only have power if we give those words power. And we make them mean something. Both just sitting with that, aren't we? We're really sitting with that. I could feel that. Yeah, I could feel that. That was just okay. We just take a moment to ourselves there. Yeah.
Into another coach, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, and I think she put something on social media about narcissists and manipulation and all that kind of thing. And I read her definition of manipulation and reached out and said, I just want to clear something up, because your definition of manipulation sounds exactly the same thing as we do as a coach. She said, yes, but it's the intention behind it. It's we're looking to improve that other person, whereas the manipulator is trying to get something out for themselves.
Well, that's an interesting perspective. My way of looking at things is that I am there, and this is one of the things that, everything I've ever done in my life, from I was a psych nurse initially, and then later on in life I retrained as a social worker. Realized very quickly that social work was not going to be for me, although I did finish my training. But I'm a Gemini and I do not do boxes, and social work is very prescriptive, and we just, did not get along. For me, it's always been about making a difference. And somebody said to me once, yeah, well, you like to know you're making a difference, don't you, Gail? And I said, hey, hang on, I just need you to take a step back with the attitude you've just displayed when you said that, because I could make it mean this. I'm choosing to make it mean something different. And I said, I cannot make a difference in anybody's life unless they choose to be ready to make a difference in their own life. It's like people say to me, do you guarantee your services? I go, hell no. I say, well, some people do. I said, that's fine for them. That's not how I work. I can give you all the tools, all the information, all the processes, you name it. If you choose not to use them, and that's not down to me, it's down to you. I will guarantee if you use what I give you, will make a difference. And I never thought about that. But I wouldn't say that I see coaching as manipulative. No, it's not. Because that just gives me a really feeling in my gut. To me, it's about helping people see things from different perspectives, and then asking them, how would this one benefit you? How would that one benefit you? How will staying stuck benefit you? Because, like it or not, sometimes there are benefits from staying stuck. I know myself.
All the secondary gains.
Exactly, that's right. But until you've got somebody like you or I that sort of starts peeling it apart and saying to them, they'll sort of say, well, there's a part of me wants to do this, there's another part of me wants to do that. So what's this part of you doing it for? What's that part of you doing it for? So what would happen if both parts joined forces to work together, and you see them literally go, oh, that would be cool. Yeah. But I think it's very, very much about us helping people see things from totally different perspectives, because you and I get to have like an overview of what's going on. And because our clients are in it, it's like us, if we're in a situation, we can't see all the different perspectives. And that's why people need people like you and I.
Yeah.
That's why I've got my own coach, why you've had your own coach. Because like it or not, we can do it for other people. We're not always so good at doing it for ourselves.
Absolutely. I think it was Les Brown that says, when you're in the picture, you can't see the frame.
Oh, I like that.
And that is so true.
Isn't it just?
Some of the presentations I do, I've got a picture of a newly engaged couple that are showing the ring off and whatnot. But when you actually look farther into the picture, some old guy sunbathing naked behind them. But they don't see it, and they're completely oblivious.
No.
Like, hey, Mum, I've just got married, just got engaged.
Exactly, that's it. And using the frame analogy, if you choose a different frame, it's amazing the difference that can make. Yeah. I mean, I do a lot of work with my clients about, I like to do deep work. And one of the things I do is say to them, so I want us to go upstairs into the attic of your mind. And this, they sit there with their eyes closed. And when we get in there, and anybody who listens to this will be able to use this experience as well. So imagine going up the stairs in a very, very safe place. And you get to the landing and there's a light switch. That light switch switches on the light inside the attic. And I will be with you every step of the way, helping you feel safe. And when we get into the attic, but not just yet, you'll see a big red button on a wall, like you get in a fire station. And that big red button will open Dutch barn doors at the end of the attic. Then you put your hand on the door handle and you can feel how it feels and you can hear the sound of the door squeaking open. You shut the door behind you and you hit the red button and you can hear the sound of the Dutch barn doors open. In this attic, there's lots of things, memories, experiences, some of which you want to keep and some of which you need to let go of. You don't need to know which bag or filing cabinet or case, because we all have our things stored in different things. So you get to choose. You don't need to know what's in them because intuitively you know which ones need to go. And then you push them over to where the Dutch barn doors are. And underneath is a dumpster truck with a driver just waiting to take the emotional baggage away. And you can hear the sound as you push the boxes or the filing cabinets or whatever. And you just check around to make sure that there's nothing just hiding in the corners. And when you finish, you can say to the driver of the dumpster truck, whether you want to get it shot into space or burnt or whatever. Then after they've gone, you come back in, you look around the attic. Does it look clean enough for you? If not, you can do like this, like Mary Poppins, and it becomes clean. If you want to paint it like that, and choose your favorite color. And then I get them to think on 3 experiences in their lives that made them feel so good. Whether it's with a loved one or somebody that went on a holiday or what have you, but something that makes them feel really good. And then they choose each one separately. And then they choose a frame because that memory is going to become a photograph. And then they put the photograph in a frame. And it's amazing the different kind of frames people choose. They say, oh, I'm going to have a silver one. Is it plain silver? Is it ornate? Is it large or small? And then they put these 3 on the wall, and then they look around and see how tidy that attic is, how welcoming it is, how much space. Then you walk back to the red button, hit the button, hear the Dutch barn doors close, go to the door, move outside, shut the door behind them, flick the switch off and then come back down the stairs. I am not joking you. I have used that so many times myself. It is so cathartic. Getting rid of all that stuff that we didn't even know was in there. Gets rid of brain fog. It helps us to see things more clearly because we've literally got a headspace. So I hope whoever's listening to this can use that and gain something from it. Looked as if you were almost dropping into a contemplative state there.
I didn't want to interrupt you while you were in flow. And also for anyone who's listening is in that semi-hypnotic state or whatever it may be, it would have taken them out of state. So there's nothing, I just could not say anything whilst you were doing it. So, but I can tell it is very, very powerful. And I use a similar thing myself with a magic cinema with a remote control that you can jump into the movie, fast forward it and edit it and all this kind of things. So I find that to be very powerful as well. But it does go to show how powerful our minds are.
Exactly, that's right.
And the beliefs stored in them.
Exactly. And I think you said somewhere at the beginning about experiences and things. We can choose what kind of experience that we want to have. That's what I love about being a human being. We have choice. You might not be able to make that choice in that particular moment, but we can choose how we see it and then plan ahead to make sure that we live a life where we feel safe. Because there's so many people out there not feeling safe. I know in New Zealand we were the second highest place in the world for suicide. And everybody thinks, oh my God, but New Zealand's a beautiful place. And yes, it is. People still hurt, and they still find it hard to speak up, whether it's with their friends or their family, especially men. Most of my clients over in New Zealand were men, probably because most of the managers were men. But I think the men, they like the combination of compassion and no bullshit. And I tell them up front, I don't think there's any point in you feeding me bullshit or me taking it. This is your space. This is your time to say whatever you need to say. And New Zealand's very much a bloke. A bloke's, you've got to be a bloke. Man up. So I've heard a phrase, take a concrete pill and harden up. What? Really?
Yeah.
And I thought, my God. But I mean, as a man, how did you find it?
I think there are times when, yes, we do need to man up for whatever expression you want to use. And there are also times where we need to be able to connect with how we're feeling, express how we're feeling, share it and whatever else, and talk about it. And it's knowing when is the time for each of those things. Something else which I believe should be taught to us as kids. That isn't.
100%. No, I know. 100% agree with you. Because like it or not, little boys are conditioned growing up. Especially, I remember one friend, a little boy, he was made by her new husband to shake hands. He was 4 years old, this little boy. 4 years old. It broke my heart. They'd been married about 6 months. And this little boy that you would expect to sort of come across and say night or what have you, or even give you a hug, came across and put his hand out in front of him. And he said, good night. And I went, night. And he went, yes, we have to shake hands. So, well, fair enough. Shake hands. He said, I'd love to give you a cuddle. I'm not allowed. And afterwards, a few days afterwards, I said to my friend, I says, what's this about him shaking hands? He's only 4. He's a wee boy. Oh, no, her husband will call him John. John believes that little boys need to be ready to be a man, and this is how it starts. And I thought, oh my God. And I felt really sorry for John, whatever had gone on in his life. And he was trying to protect his stepson by showing him these, I just thought, oh my God. So sad. You're right. It should be done in school. It should be taught in school.
It's back to generations ago where you had to be like that just to survive. But we don't live in that world now. But the upbringings are be on 2 extremes at the moment. The one where it's completely unemotional, and the other where emotions are everything. They need is a balance between the two, that balance of masculine and feminine energy within ourselves and then within the relationships from there.
Totally. And I think the younger generation, we can learn a lot from the younger generation. But I hear so much of it. Why do they keep asking me if they've done a good job? I'll tell them if they haven't. I said, no. They need to know that they're contributing. They need to know that the work they're doing has meaning. It's not about them going, I'm a good. It's about needing to know. And we could all benefit from being more open with people. Oh, well, they'll know if I'm doing they'll know when they're not doing a good job. Come on. This is not about like a yearly appraisal. We need to be telling people on a regular basis so that they can keep on doing more of what's really working and do less of what's not. And I think if we got somebody who was older teamed up with somebody who was younger, each could benefit from the other. Not going to happen, though.
Not. And I think as long as we praise come as being good or bad or whatever, rather than the efforts put in to get that outcome, things are not going to change.
Exactly. And it's, we said earlier about external, internal validation. I'm a great believer that, who was it? Was it Ken Blanchard wrote the 1 Minute Manager? I think it was him. And I love how he says, don't come to me with a problem. Come to me with a solution. Because even if it's wrong, it's shown me you've put some thought into it. That, I think we need to see more of that. I know I've got friends who are managers and they say, I've got an open door, but it's like a blooming revolving door, the in and out and in and out and in and out. And I say, well, how much time are you wasting by them coming to you and saying, have you just got a minute? And you're going, because it takes, 8 minutes or something to get out of one thing, to get your head into another thing, to get out of that thing and back into that. And it's literally about saying to them, so what's the issue? How do you plan to solve it? Because if they come up with the answer, they're a lot more likely to be successful at it, rather than coming to you or I and saying, well, what should we do? Here's the answer, off they go. Because it doesn't build anybody's critical thinking skills. It doesn't make them resilient if they have to keep coming to somebody else to get the answer.
Do you get stressed out of his head or her head?
Exactly. And that's why I've got a lot of them as my clients.
Is that an elephant I see on the shelf behind you?
Yes, it is. Yes, it's my friend. I take him with him to all the trainings that I do.
Is that for company or is there purpose behind him?
Well, he's really, really soft and cuddly. However, you know yourself that a lot of the time in teams, there's the elephant in the room. Everybody knows it's there, but nobody wants to talk about it. And this goes back to the difficult conversations. And I think one of the easiest ways I have found to talk about the elephant in the room is to literally bring him with me. And I plonk Humphrey on the table when I first get into a workshop. And then when they're all doing an exercise, I move him. And you can see people looking and they go, is that not where Humphrey was? Oh, and then they carry on. But then they'll start looking. And then I'll put him somewhere else. And somewhere else. And eventually people are going, where's Humphrey the elephant? I'll say, well, funny you should ask. And that opens up a wonderful conversation about why people don't talk about the elephant in the room. As you know, if we don't talk about the elephant in the room, we end up with a great big pile of elephant doo-doo. And I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to clear it up. So it's much, much easier if we talk about things right at the get-go. Because not only does it surface things that we need to surface, but it also helps us build much more open, compassionate relationships, which is what I'm all about. A business is built on 3 pillars. And I think if every single person on this planet could do these 3 simple things, act compassionately, speak openly, and think positively, the world would be a much, much happier place.
I have Yoda and Darth Vader on the shelf behind me. Well, it's when I was training with Master Coach, they took a tool which they called the red and the black. And it's like any moment in time, the red is positive and higher vibration emotions, and the black is the darker ones and the deeper ones and the lower vibration ones. And you get to choose whether a moment is green, is red or black. And I thought about the black, and maybe think of Darth Vader and then thought about the red and said, that doesn't work, but green for Yoda does. So it represents the light and the dark within, because we are both every moment. And it just depends where we put our focus.
100%. And as you said, we always have a choice.
Yeah.
Even if we choose not to do anything, that's still a choice.
And then we look at Tony Robbins' 6 human needs of love and connection, significance, growth, and contribution. You can meet all of these needs in the green or in the black. One, you're going to be fulfilled, and the other, you're going to feel like crap.
Exactly. And I don't know about you, I don't like feeling like crap.
Don't.
And I don't like those around me feeling that they have to feel like crap. So that's why I say, when we all start to act compassionately and speak openly and think positively, if we can do that for ourselves, it has a ripple effect. And, when I first started in teaching assertiveness and running workshops on difficult conversations, I used to say to people, one of the reasons I'm teaching this is because I want to help you find your voice. I want to help you speak your truth. And I eventually want to help you to step into your power. When you put that together with the acting compassionately, speaking openly, and thinking positively, it's a very, very powerful way to be able to live your life and to spread those ripples. Everybody who comes on my workshops, I say to them, this is not just for work. These are skills that you can take out into your relationships with your loved ones, with your children, with your partners, with your friends and your family, and eventually out into the community. And I did a lot of work for an organization when I was in New Zealand. They put the CEO and the general managers went through it, the difficult conversations one. And then they spread it out. I think eventually it was another 60 went through it. And unknown to me, they had done a 6-monthly follow-up with the people who had gone through the workshop. Now, the workbooks were identical because they were just like that, an aid memoir, so that in the future you could dip into and think, what was it we did with it? Oh, yeah. But every single workshop was completely different because, of course, the people are different. And what they bring is different. But after that 6 months, 96% of the people were still using the skills that they had learned in the workplace, and 94. God, I'm still getting goosebumps remembering it. That blew me away, and 94% of them still using it with their families and at home. And I don't know about you, but that's how I want to be able to contribute.
Yeah.
That's how I want to see people building their relationships with themselves and with others. One woman came back and she said, you do realize, she says, I almost divorced my husband, and coming on your workshop stopped it. And I went, I thought, that's a bit hurtful. And she said, and I said, what? I said, did you no, she said, I couldn't tell him about the course because I knew he'd just go, that's all that fluff. But she says, I know he's a nosy old bugger. So I got the workbook and I left it open on the table, knowing that he would go read what was in it. And she said they were on a bit of a road trip. It's about 6-hour road trip. And she said, we have never had a conversation like we did on that road trip. So I never asked him if he had read it because he'd have clammed shut. But the conversation that they had, because of what she had learned, was amazing. And she didn't ask him for a divorce.
This is how you influence a man. You don't tell him what to do. You don't nag him. Leave stuff conveniently placed in the background for him to find. A podcast playing. It's what it is. Oh, that's interesting. What are you listening to? The Whole Man Academy. Okay. Then he might go off and listen to it on his own.
And that happens for both genders. Sometimes women will not be told. We don't want to be told. We don't want to be fixed. But if you leave something playing away in the background and something left open, we're exactly the same. It doesn't matter what gender you are. Nobody likes to be told. Nobody likes to be told that they need to be fixed. They just want things to be shared. And sometimes we have to be very careful and canny on how we share things.
You have those stressed managers with revolving doors of problem after problem are listening to this.
They can find me on LinkedIn, Gail Page, or they can go to my website, The Heart of High Performance. Because those 3 pillars I told you about, compassionately, speak openly, speak openly, think positively. They are the pillars of the heart of high performance. So theheartofhighperformance.com. And if they want to know more about difficult conversations, there's actually a free ebook on the homepage of my website. And it's called The Art of Navigating Difficult Conversations. So, and it gives you step-by-step things that you can do so that when you enter into conversation and you want to keep your relationship intact, there's steps there for you that will help you.
We'll drop the links down in the show notes as well to make it easier for everyone. So, final question that I ask everybody, just don't tell them. And that is, as this podcast is called Relationship Revolutions, from your perspective, what is one thing that will bring a revolution to the world of relationships and dating?
I think exactly what I've just said. Those 3 pillars: act compassionately, speak openly, and think positively. Because if you can do that, if you can show up like that, it's almost as if you give the other person permission to do exactly the same thing.
Yeah. No matter what your sexuality or gender is, you can take that lead in any relationship, whether it's in business, in your personal life, things that you want to see, as they say.
I love that saying. It's so true, isn't it? Change is great. You go first.
Thing to change, but we don't want to change ourselves.
And until we change that, we'll stay
Nothing
stuck.
changes.
No, exactly. And I don't know about you, Alan. I don't like being stuck.
Don't like being stuck. I don't like change either. So I just have to find the balance between the two.
I love change.
But
I love it. That's the Gemini in me. That's the Gemini in me. Yeah.
Even one step forward, 3 steps forward and 2 back, it's still progress.
100%. Exactly. And as you and I both know, it all starts in here.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
in our heart. Yeah.
And change really happens when you get those 2 talking to each other and on the same page and head in the right direction.
And if you add in the gut, head, heart, gut, then you really make change.
Thank you for joining me. It's been an honour and a pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
And no doubt we'll see each other in the online space.
Sorry, that was a mix of pleasure. I've really enjoyed it, Alan. Thank you so much for asking me on.
Thank you for coming.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. And if you haven't already, please leave me a review on your preferred podcast platform. Click the like button and also subscribe so that you get the new episode notifications. I'm curious, what did you take away from this episode? Please share your takeaways with me. Send me an email to relationship-revolutions@theloveengineer.rocks.